calling the meeting to order at 5:45. We have Christopher Anderson,
Here.
Lisa Avedijan,
Here.
Joseph Spada,
Here.
Karen Martini, tax assessor, here. First thing on the docket was the approval of the minutes, and I just noticed on the email the minutes were not included, so let's table that for the next meeting. You probably didn't go on the Secretary of State's website and see them, no?
That's fine.
Table?
Table.
I'm gonna make a request that we take it a little slow. I have nobody to do my minutes. So I'll be just jotting down simple notes and votes so that I can do the minutes because nobody else could do them.
Mhm.
So if we could just, if I say, wait, whoa, whoa, please bear with me. We have no old business.
Karen, you can record this too.
Well, it's being recorded.
Okay.
It's just, it's a time thing for me. You know, I have no staff here. So for me to spend hours going through minutes is not, it's not going to happen. So I'm just going to try and make it as succinct as I possibly can. And I probably will have to go to the website and listen to it. Okay, so new business. We have John Che. Mr. Che, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good to hear.
I didn't lose my life, so that's good.
You didn't lose your
I
license?
didn't lose my power. I
Oh,
used
your power, right.
That is crazy. Yeah.
That's good. Well, I'm going to let the board take it. And maybe you can give an explanation and they can ask their questions.
Sure. Should I start, folks?
Please.
Hi, my name is John Shea, C-H-E-A. First of all, before I start, I apologize. I believe I had written something with my request to Ms. Martini by saying, I believe I used the word blindly. I apologize. I just,
Oh, that's okay.
I'm so sorry.
Wait, don't think twice. That's fine.
So anyway, since I only got 15 minutes, I'm gonna just run it right through. So I have provided the documentations to the assessor, and I hope you have a copy of them. And but just basically just go point by point. I'll start with if we were to compare the values of my home and the three homes that I had submitted with the application at 100% comparison. Each of those property have more living spaces, have more amenities. It's completed, you know, so on and so on with pools, with all that. Their building value, 153, 196, and 194K. Now, and each of those property also have more usable lands compared to mine. The other thing I wanted to say is that each of those property have not gotten an increase in value as we speak. So with my home being just 75% to 80% completed, it is currently valued at 236 for the building compared to the other three buildings, and $86,000 for the land of an actual half acre out of this 5 acres that is usable land. That's just a half acre right in between, you know, my two left and right, and it goes 125 feet to the back, and the rest is just wetland. So that's one point. The other thing I wanted to say, and this is a fact. I received a CO, a certificate of occupancy, back in on June 7, 1917. Now, when I received that, the building board, the building inspector know that it was only 75% complete. Now, I don't know if you know, but the rule allowed my family to move into the house with just the basic necessary, because I built a house myself. We put this from the ground. So it's about 75% completed, but all the basics were done. You know, the bathroom, the kitchens and all that for livable. So we were allowed to move in knowing that it was not 100% complete. Fact number two, in the sheet, the insurance company had been here on location. They have inspected the house, they have seen the house, and they will only insure at face value up to $192,000. The other fact is that a couple of years ago, the former assessor, Mr. Christopher Celeste, he was here. He went through the whole house. He walked back through, you know, to inspect the land and everything else on September 25th, 2018, the last time assessment. He inspected the property and he came back with a value of about 288 total. You know, and the other fact is that, you know, at this point, the current assessor, Northeast, the company have not been here. I mean, I understand with everything else, so, but they have not been here. So they basically, I don't know, guessing or educated guess the value of the home. So those are just basic facts. I want to just, you know, have you see, and then and that's about it. And everything else is in the pile. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the current card, I don't know because I don't have a copy of your current card valuation. If you have it, Ms. Carey, in the land section, it has the code number 1 for a single family, and it says the land is 4.5 acres, and code 13 for the vacant land is 0.5 acre. I believe that appraisal should be reversed. It should show that the single family should only value the land should be valued on that 0.5 acre that I mentioned earlier. That's just usable land. But according to the old card, your valuation card, it showed that the actual usage land was 4.5 acres and not a half. Therefore, the value was a lot higher. And that's it. I mean, you know, unless you folks have any other questions.
Okay, let me start by, you have 5.1 acre, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you're in a 5-acre zone.
Okay.
So the prime landline, the prime site, the 5 acres runs off the zoning. That's why there's 5 in the prime.
But,
Okay.
okay. But
And
as
you have 50% adjustment on that for wet. So just so you understand why that design is the way it is, it's because the prime site runs from, is determined by the zoning. You're in a 5-acre zone.
okay. But I mean, if you, may I?
Of course.
Oh, but since I'm not totally understanding what all of this without help, but you would value the land. I mean, a wetland isn't worth anything, correct? I mean, so you would value that land a lot lesser than would be an actual land that are usable.
Right, and that's why we have a 50% adjustment on that landline. And if you think that it should be more than that, then that's absolutely what you should argue to the board. And I will let them take it over from here. I just wanted you to understand why that 5 acres on that first landline.
Understood. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes, I will like to take that claim to the board.
Okay, well, you have their attention right now.
I have a question, Mr. Shea.
Yeah.
If I can understand correctly, when it was previously assessed at $346,000 prior to Chris coming out and doing a physical examination of the property. And when he did that, he was in an agreement that they needed to adjust you down to a value of $288,000 in 2019, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
18.
so where do we go from the 280, or how do we go from the 288 down to the opinion of $210,000?
The 210, those are just my actual costs. So I'm not even, claiming that I'm, that because I built the house myself. Those are actual, costs that I put into the house. So like I said, on my appeal, I would take Mr. Celeste appraisal value. So if you would give me, a couple of $1,000 off what it is currently valued, I'm a happy man.
So, okay.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah, right now it's currently valued.
Okay, so you're not asking for 210, as I understood your appeal to read.
I would love that, but I will,
I'm
but
sure.
I will take 288 at Mr. Celeste value because he was town's assessor, and he was here, so he was an official. So I will take his appraisal. No question asked.
May I ask what was not completed that allowed you to get a CO?
Pretty much everything. All the outside, my clapboards, probably half, 50% done. Just the frontage and the side. The front porch, if you see that picture, it's not done. The bathroom, I have a running shower, I have a running toilet, I have a running sink, but the tilings, the whole facade is not done. The kitchen,
So it was all the cosmetic finishes that you were lacking.
pretty
Because
much.
in order to get a CO, it has to meet the safety of the occupants, and you probably also had to be fire coded, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So the fire codes and everything, all that was done. Yeah. It's just all the cosmetic, the 100 completion exactly right. So tub, a shower, and stuff like that. So yeah.
We do have a 5% adjustment on the house value for being not finished.
Mhm.
Yeah, I actually have three separate reasons why I think the assessed value as it is now is correct. And one of them focuses on Chris's 288 number. That came in a September 2018 letter. So that would have been for the period ending December 31st, 2017. We are now at December 31st, 2019. So even if, and the housing market has boomed. So even if we add something for the 2 years that have gone by to the 288, if I throw 10% on that, I'm at 316.8. And I think that's low. I mean, and I'm close enough to the assessed value that I wouldn't think that I'm right over their number. So just using Chris's number, I think the number that the town came up with this year is correct. You mentioned that your number of 210, and you mentioned that you're a builder in your letter, was basically your cost. But as a builder, if you were doing the job, you'd be throwing your labor into that too. You wouldn't sell that house for your cost. You would be including your labor. So even your numbers support a number much, much higher than the 210. And then I look at the land value. I noticed that you would put a value of $50,000 on the land. Right now I'm selling a 1 acre lot in Coventry for $75,000. I wanted $80,000. I agreed to 75. I know that 5 acre lots, even wet ones, are going for a whole lot more. We're in the $120,000 range, if not higher. So I went back and looked, and when I saw it, they had given you a 50% reduction on the wet because the land was wet. I thought that was overly fair. I really think that number that they're putting on your land is probably low right now, which again leads me to stick with the number the town has. But really, my biggest reason for sticking with the number the town has right now is based on Chris's number of the 288 plus 2 years worth of appreciation in the real estate market.
May I respond?
Sure.
That's understood. You and I, we were selling houses. If the house was 100% complete, then the value would grow according to the market. But as you know, if the house is not totally complete and I haven't had the money to complete them, I have done some other works to the house. So to what you're saying, you see what I'm saying? It was.
Well, I do, because you put in your letter. You put that in your letter. You put, in fact, an unfinished property doesn't appreciate. I think that was the last sentence in your letter, and I kind of fundamentally disagree with that, because Chris pulled the value down to reflect the fact that it wasn't finished, and that's how we got to the 288. So the the lowered value still goes up every year, and the housing market has been booming. So I mean, adding a percentage to the lower number takes into account the fact the house isn't finished. Never mind, the house is probably more finished now than it was 2 years prior. But even putting just a reasonable increase over the 2 years on Chris's 288 number gets me close to where the town is now. I mean, and that's my opinion. I'm throwing out there.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Based on that same argument that I have in my head that Chris just shared with you, Mr. Shea, I agree with Chris in that number of 321. I actually think it might be a little conservative, but that being said, that's the number, and I agree that that's more than fair. Joe?
No, I agree also that 321 is more than fair in this market.
I'm going to suggest a motion that the application be denied and the current value remain.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ready to enter out.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shea. Who's next? Mr. Goodison. Mr. Goodison let me know that he did not think he was going to be able to make this meeting. So I will put him on our next agenda because he is not here. If that's agreeable for you.
It's fine by me.
So we are then going to have Hope Properties.
How you guys doing?
Hello.
How you doing? Hello. So, my name is Andrew Lesperance. I've lived in the town all my life. I bought this property about 5 years ago, and I've been working on it, getting through, the growing pains, if you will. And what brings me here today is that I'm kind of in a situation where, I'm putting together this appeal under the intentions that, there's still continuing work that needs to be done at the property. Right now, currently, I'll kind of just jump into it here, but currently there's space heaters in all the apartments, and I'm working on being able to get to a situation where I can put an central heating system in there. And what I have for what it's, what the town has appraised it at doesn't really take that into consideration. I mean, just to get the heating system in there with, all the nuts and bolts, it's in between, I've got an estimate in between 60 to 90,000. I put together a package for you folks. I'm not sure if you had gotten a copy.
Thank you.
That was one of the big items that needed to be attended to, as well as the driveway that needs to be repaved. I had Narragansett Improvement come out and take a look at it, and they estimated that to be around 30,000. So it's just all like these compiling items that need to be attended to, cost to cure items that aren't really factored into the current, what the current value of the property is. On top of that, kind of being in the times with COVID and tenants and stuff like that, I'm in the situation where I'm having a hard time collecting rents as need be, and I'm not really wanting to be in the situation where I'm, having to do evictions and stuff, and that.
Sir, if I may.
Yes, of course.
These values are as of December 31st, 2019.
Correct.
That was our date of assessment for this reval.
Yep.
That is the values that everyone is working off of. It was pre-COVID. And I don't mean to diminish any issues that you're having
Sure.
due to COVID, but we can't take that into account.
Okay. Well, I mean, I did want to bring it up in, light of the whole situation,
Yes, sir.
because these issues that I'm having with, these improvements that inevitably need to be done. I have a sewer tie-in that needs to happen as well. I have plans that have been approved. I'm looking to, hopefully break ground in the spring, once things warm up a little bit. But, I'm trying to, I'm a young guy. I'm trying to get ahead of the curve here, and it's been fairly difficult. And, kind of seeing what the value of the building was. I mean, I just don't think it's in line with what needs to be done going down the line, So, in the last few years, I've put on 2 new roofs, on the garage and the house, and it just never ending. So I hope you guys, would take those things into consideration here today.
Andrew, I have a couple of questions for you, if I may.
Absolutely.
You purchased the property in October 2015, correct?
Correct.
Purchase price was $175,000.
Correct.
It's a 5-unit.
Correct.
Can you tell me about those? Each one of those units, 1-bed, 2-bed studios.
There's 4 2-beds and one is a 1-bedroom.
Square footage approximate?
Square footage is probably around. It's a good question. The apartments are around 700-800 square feet apiece, though.
Okay. And were you granted a reduction in your assessment in 2018
I was.
from, what was it, 463 to 430?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. Yep.
Okay. Did they do an on-site visit then?
They did not.
Okay. But at the time, I'm just assuming at the time, actually at the time of purchase, all those capital improvements you just mentioned that the building needs, it needed then when you purchased it, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been just a couple things a year, on top of the regular maintenance of the property. It's been an adventure.
I point out the card actually says heat type space heater. So that one of them actually is accounted for right on the tax assessment card.
Okay. Well, going forward, inevitably it's going to turn into a situation where I will need to focus on getting a heating system, central heating system. Right now there's a space heaters. What they want to do is, from the people that I had, I talked about going to a boiler or otherwise, and it was recommended that I look into doing some kind of split unit system in the property for each individual apartment. And it adds up because it's an old house. It's 1880. So as with those kind of properties, it's, everything's kind of patched together one thing at a time. Every apartment's different,
You tied into the sewer?
Not yet. And that's a plan of mine, is to get tied in.
It's a combo property. Is there a commercial aspect?
There are garages. There's 9 garages that I rent to self-storage, mostly people with automobiles, and other storage. I use one of the garages for personal use, and then in the back there's I rent to a couple more people. There's actually 3 buildings on the property. So there's the 5-unit house, there's a 9-unit garage, and then there's the garage in the back that's a 10 by 50 steel structure.
So you rent those, you say, the garages?
Correct.
But I noticed that you included all of these quotes and estimates.
Yep.
But you did not include income and expense report.
Okay.
Which would include your reserves, because these things don't come out of an assessment in 1 year. That's why there are reserves, right? So that would be helpful next time.
Yeah.
If you were to go down this road.
I'm learning as we go. Put it that way. You got to learn at some point.
We all are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good thing. So
that was my only point.
Yeah, I mean, I just like you guys to consider, these things that I'm dealing with here, and I hope that, I mean, I did put down as a applicant opinion of value about 400,000. I mean, that's my opinion. Everybody has an opinion. I'd be happy just with a little bit of a reduction, just to taking these things in consideration. I'm not here asking for the world, just a little bit of clemency in the situation.
You got one heck of a deal
expensive.
on 175.
What's that?
Yeah, you got a
It
good.
was it's a family situation, in fairness.
Yeah, it does. It's got the potential of getting a lot of revenue, that property, in the different areas that you said.
What is the revenue?
Yearly revenue, I have to pull up. I don't have my whole office with me today. I'm kind of I'm at home. I have an office separate from here, so I would have to pull that stuff together for you folks.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Lisa. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. I mean, it's got the opportunity to generate a lot of revenue. Versus, where I'm looking at it, I'm going based on what it needs. Is it worth, $100,000 a door being a 5-unit? But it's actually not just a 5-unit. So now I'm going back to the other side of the argument where it's like, oh, I got to chew on this one a little bit.
I think you're wise not to do an income analysis to come up with the value of this property, for starters, but you didn't, and it's not in front of us, so I'm not going to make those guesses. Your argument kind of breaks into two parts. One, it's a tough time. I've got tenants who have a hard time paying. I can't raise the rent. I have an income restriction because of the times. That's true for everyone, unfortunately. And I feel what you're saying. I really need a break in the taxes. The problem is that's the town council to decide, not us. We value what the building's worth, not what the taxes end up
I
being.
totally understand that.
And then secondly, we have a lot of work to do on the building. You mentioned the sewer tie-in. I mean, the sewer tie-in can add as much value as what it costs to install, because there's value in having the sewer there. I'm going through that with a piece of property right now. I hooked the property into the sewers, and the value went up more than what I paid to hook it up. The card already takes into account the space heaters. It's in fair condition on the card. I think the condition of the building has been taken into consideration, and apparently was taken into consideration with a direct visit just 2 years ago. So I hear the arguments. You're risking the rent because of the COVID situation, and there are expenses that are coming up, and that's just the joy of being a landlord. Lisa mentioned she needed to chew on this. There's nothing in front of me that I see that would justify the reduction in price based on what's here. You had mentioned the willingness to get an actual appraisal. I think I know where your building is. Jerry Rock is you can throw a stone to his building from there. You could walk down and say, hey, Jerry, give me an appraisal. I don't know. I mean, I think that's what's missing here is an independent professional evaluation as to what the property's worth. Because I don't have a lot here to say,
Yeah.
this number's wrong.
Is that somebody that you would recommend to go? I'm not familiar with him.
Well, I'm just saying Jerry happens to be right there. He's an appraiser. He's an in-town appraiser. I'm not suggesting anybody. I'm not trying to recommend any particular appraiser.
Yep.
So what happens, he's right there.
I mean, that's something I'd be willing to do, though, is get, an appraisal of the board's choice, essentially.
I mean, one of the problems is this was the place to bring that appraisal. The board wants to consider, postponing to get an appraisal. I don't know. Personally, right now, I'm not seeing a lot that would sway me to say that I need to bring the price down, because I just don't have the evidence that I could consider to do that.
I mean, the assessment's definitely worth what you're seeking, worth more than what you're seeking at $400,000. And I have to agree with Chris about the appraisal, and I have to also expand upon that's probably in your best interest, because these are big capital improvements, such as the sewer, for the reasons that Chris just brought up.
Right.
So if you get an appraisal now with this baseline, it can only, that appraisal number can only get inflated after you're done doing what you're saying needs to get done. Heating system, sewers, I mean, those are long-standing capital improvements.
Right.
And that would be to your benefit.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a process.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure.
And unfortunately, this is for 2019, pre-COVID, so it's a sensitive issue for everybody, but for the reason that we are here, fighting for that assessment with that date attached to it, it can't be a consideration.
I gotcha. That's understandable too. I mean, just in the nature of, rent in this day and age, it was definitely a consideration of mine coming into this, but I could see where you'd be going, especially based off of the 2019 numbers. So
So it's gonna be my recommendation that if you want to revisit this, to come with back with an appraisal.
Okay, we can arrange that. If that's something that we can, if you guys find it in the favor of the board, then I'd be happy to do that.
It's going explain exactly what you mean though, please, Lisa.
I'm sorry?
Revisit when?
When he has an appraisal.
Well, my thought would be, are you inclined to get an appraisal now and continue this appeal?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here for a reason today, so.
We could continue this for 2 meetings or a meeting, and if you come back with the appraisal, reconsider it.
Yep.
Or we just rule and you do this again next year. I don't know. I'm not figuring out what you want to do. If you're willing to get appraisal right now.
Oh, good girl.
I am willing to get the appraisal, so if that's the case, if you want to continue this in a couple meetings, give me a little bit of time to get that together, that'd be fine.
And we could continue it. We can move to continue this for 2 months.
I'm open to that. Carrie?
Whatever that meeting happens to be, we would just notice,
Yeah, sure, that's fine. I'll keep an eye out. Will I get notification in the mail or via email?
Well, if and when you receive your appraisal, let us know and
Okay.
we'll try and get you on the next meeting.
Perfect. That sounds like a plan.
What you need to bear in mind, the scope of your appraisal needs to have a value date of 12/31/19. That's the scope of the appraisal. I don't want you to spend a whole lot of money on an appraisal and not have it be worth it for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Well, I do appreciate your time today.
So, I going to make a motion to continue this, or are we denying it and allowing him to come back?
I think we should deny it and allow him to come back so that he can plan out his time and his finances regarding that appraisal.
Okay.
That's some due diligence to do too, to find out how much that appraisal is gonna be.
Fair. Sounds good.
Okay, so deny.
I'll make a motion to deny the appeal and allow him to refile with an appraisal.
I will second that.
He can't refile because by law there are dates that have to be met.
Okay.
So can we not maybe deny it and just continue it? He can.
So why don't we, let's continue it. I'll make a motion to continue this I think in that case, we need to have some timeline.
That we said 2 months.
2 months.
So we're looking at the end of March.
I'm not, I think that's what we said. I'm not married to that. It's up to you guys.
I mean, that's enough time to get the appraisal. If
Yeah.
you're,
Absolutely. That'll work for me. Whatever's good for you guys.
so
60-day extension.
well, I don't want to do that because that pins us down to when we have to have a meeting. So it would be, the next meeting, approximately 2 months, or the meeting in April. I don't know. We may not even have a meeting in April. I want to leave this.
Okay, if I could suggest
Please.
that we word it as such as we receive the appraisal with it before the end of March. He will be put on the next tax board of review meeting.
Works for me. That's good. I really appreciate it. It's very fair.
So I'll try this again. I'll make a motion to that the applicant has until the last day of March to supply an appraisal to the board. Failure to do so, the application is denied. Appraisal provided, it'll be put on the next meeting.
Excellent.
Okay.
Anyone want to second that artful motion?
I will second that for you.
All in favor?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Are you in agreement?
I'm sorry?
No, I was just asking Joe if he was in agreement.
What were we asking?
You agree the as till the end of March to get an appraisal to us?
Yeah.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have a great night. Thank you.
You too. Thanks. Okay, now we have Mr. Walsh. Are you with
Hi,
us? Hi.
my battery's running low as I've been listening here. Let me just plug in my, let's see what I'm plugging in. Ah. Ah.
Uh-oh.
I think that may do it.
Oh, good. I thought we lost you.
Yep, you're on.
Hey, I don't have a computer. I'm just sitting here holding my cell phone. So, and I've got a busted arm. So if I start to drop things, you'll understand. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Alexander Walsh. I'm an attorney in Newport. I represent the property owner at 28 Greenhouse Road, Gail McHugh. This is, I've been doing tax appeals for 35 years, and I must say this is kind of an interesting one and poses some interesting legal questions more than anything else. We're not contesting the value of the property at this point. We're just contesting the determination by the assessor that revoked a previous decision by your previous assessor that the property was tax exempt, being a house of religious practice. What it was a property that was bought, I think, back in 2013 for, I thought I wrote it down, something like $235,000. But the owners of the property are two ministers of a church called the Congregation of Horn and Cauldron Church of the Earth. This apparently is a relatively new church. As best as I can determine, it's only 20 or 30 years old. They have applied to the federal government, and they do have 501(c) status. They are a registered nonprofit with the state of Rhode Island in good standing. And it basically is a house that is in the name of one of the ministers, the wife, Gail McHugh. The house consists of a living room, dining room, kitchen, and 3 bedrooms, as I understand it. And then they have 2 outbuildings. One is a new 24 by 24 outbuilding, the first floor of which is also used for religious services. And the second floor is used for storage of church artifacts and other paraphernalia that they use in their religious practices. There's secondly another barn that has animals. As I understand it, and I apologize, I don't know the theological dimensions, the parameters of this church, but it seems to be a earth-orientated religious body. And as part of that religious practices, they have a small animal husbandry and a small farm with goats and sheep and ducks and chickens and things like that, so that they can educate the children of some of their congregants. They have apparently about 150 church members. And as I say, the primary building is used for their religious services. And they have an office library in that one of the two of the three bedrooms. And the third bedroom is used for a religious retreat bedroom for people that come in from out of town. So the assessor and I have gone back and forth a little bit. The appropriate statutes are 44-3-3, which is property exempt under the general laws of the state of Rhode Island. And section 5 of that statute provides that buildings for religious worship and the land upon which they stand immediately surrounding them to an extent not exceeding 5 acres, which this property does not exceed, as I understand it, is exempt. And I think under the previous assessor's determination, he relied on that section of this chapter in order to exempt the property. As I understand it, and I don't mean to put words in the mouth of the present assessor, that she has taken the determination that it consists of a dwelling house, which in relevant part should be held in trust or for any religious organization and actually used by its officiating clergy. So typically what you would have in a case like this is a church or a parish or with the parish house or with somewhere where the clergy would be housed separately. Now that doesn't mean that in the course of Rhode Island history, as this law has applied, that there have not been church buildings that are used, as in this case, primarily for the exercise of the religious practices, which don't also have an auxiliary use for the clergy for domicile purposes. And so my argument to the board is that they should reinstate the previous determination that this property falls within the purview of Rhode Island General Law 44-3-3, subparagraph 5, and that the property should be exempt.
I'll start. I believe the property is 13 acres, so you would have an extra acreage outside the 5. You make an argument that you could have a church building that has a dwelling unit inside, that the clergy could live there. That may be true, but if I just go straight off the statute and the word exclusively, where it says the building shall be used exclusively for religious or educational purposes, that would not include dwelling to me. So maybe there's an argument out there that you can squeeze living in this building in under the definition provided in 4335, but that's not what this says.
I'm not sure I see where the word exclusively comes in there.
Well, it's the last.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah,
but
I see it in the last line. Yeah.
The buildings and land are occupied and exclusively for religious or educational purposes. Now, to me, it's the example you said. Typically, you would have a church and a separate rectory building where the clergy live, and I think that's what Section 6 is suggesting. It talks about the dwelling.
Right.
And you touched on this, the owned by or held in trust, and perhaps as a way you could get around this by having the building held in trust. That is not the situation that exists at the moment, so it's somewhat speculative. I have a bigger problem than all of this, however, and that is, I don't know how you get around zoning, because right now they're in complete violation of the zoning ordinance. In order to have either group instruction or a church or religious services regularly held but not in a church, or a cemetery, because there's indication they wanted to do a cemetery there someday, all of those require a special use permit in that zone. They don't have one. So right now, as a matter of law, this is not a legal church in that zone. I see myself to say I would extend a tax break when the land use is being violated as a matter of zoning.
I understand your position.
I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think it fits the statute, and I think you've got a zoning problem.
Okay, well, that's the first I'm aware of that. Are there any other comments?
No.
Spada?
No,
All right, well, why don't you make a decision and then I'll have to address the issues that you, I think, properly bring up with regard to the zoning. And then, as I indicated to the assessor at the start of the meeting, she and I had discussed about whether we would put the property in the actual church's name, which is a problem from a finance point of view.
Well, with respect, sir, with respect, we didn't really discuss it. You asked me, would this go away if she put it in the church's name? And I said yes.
Right. Well, that's in the form of a discussion as far as I can tell. The other possibility is looking at this other section that I raised with you today, which is 44-4-6, which provides for the lease of property. And that may be a more logical way that we would proceed.
And that would be in a couple of years.
Well, that would be.
You don't need to rely on that statute to get what you want. They could be obligated to pay the taxes from day one. That statute talks about if you have a 10-year lease and what the implications of that are. I don't think you even need to get to that statute to accomplish what you might want to do with a trust. Right now, they're operating illegally. I think you've got to solve that problem first.
I think that's probably correct.
Mm-hmm.
Since I've been making motions, I'll make a motion to deny the application.
And I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good night.
Spada? Did you say aye as well?
yes.
I
said
didn't hear
aye.
you. Thank you.
A convent wanted to go in on Harkney Hill Road. I have to be at the zoning hearing when they tried to get the zoning permission for the use permit.
You on the zoning board as well?
No, I was there for something else.
Oh, wow.
Oh, never.
And finally, ALA Coventry.
Hey, that's me.
Ms. Bristow, I am so glad that you made it safely.
Yeah, it was a little bit hectic. I mean, we were going like 5 miles an hour all the way down to 95, but thank you.
She had called and was afraid she wasn't going to make the meeting.
Yeah,
You made it in plenty of time. Glad to see you.
I did. Nice to see everybody. Okay, so ALA Coventry is the Gorton Menard Funeral Home on 721 Washington. One of the things I said in my letter right from the very beginning is I just want to make a note for the field card where it says I have a full bath and 3 half baths, but there's no full baths in that building. There's only a man's half bath and a woman's half bath, just lavettes on the first floor, and then an office half bath on the second floor.
Mhm.
I'd like them to just correct that. I don't know why they have it marked as a full bath in there.
Okay, yes.
All right. So
I have the wrong property.
I'll skip all the stuff about funeral homes struggling because I'm sure nobody wants to hear about that again. But our particular funeral home I tried to do some lookups of comparable properties. There's not a heck of a lot that sold that year of any kind of commercial buildings or larger, Victorian style homes or anything. But I did do a lookup of, funeral homes in Coventry, and Ionati, just for comparison, they have a finished basement. We don't. They have an apartment for rental purposes, and we don't. They have a full bath, we don't. They have 2 bedrooms, we don't. And theirs is assessed at $664 for the finished living area of 6972, or approximately 95.32 per square foot. Ours is assessed slightly higher at $677 for a finished living area of 6168, or approximately 109.85 per square foot. So even being assessed just at that, it should bring it down to around 587,933. Theirs is a much newer, more modern building. Ours is an old Victorian with, crummy heating system, old windows. More than half of it is not usable. They're just in a much better position than we are. Their building is sellable. Ours, I don't think it would be, because it would need so much rehab to be sold for anything, to be gutted as an office building. It certainly couldn't be sold as a home as is. And so I think, that's a direct comparison between ours and theirs. Then I look out further, because there's only 2 funeral homes in Coventry. I look out towards Galugly on Providence Street in West Warwick. I think West Warwick's a fair comparable town to Coventry. Their building, again, is much nicer and newer than our funeral home, and it's assessed at $605. Their square footage is 9407, meaning that they're assessed at $64.34 per square foot. Based on a similar assessment, ours should be about $396,849. If I look at Galugly Funeral Home, which is also in West Warwick, that's also nicer, newer, and that's assessed at $391,800. It has 5,072 square feet, meaning it's assessed at $77.24 per square foot, excuse me. And then based on this, the assessment of ours would be in the range of $476, $416. The only commercial sale I found for that year in Coventry was on your database, was the 6 Grand View, which actually was sold in 2018. And it sold for $400, excuse me, and is assessed at $381. They have 6424 square footage, making it about $53.99 per square foot. If we were assessed at that same price, it would bring us down to $333,010. So basically, I'm just trying to show that there's, been a lot of variation. Ours being assessed much higher than everybody else's, and ours being, relatively the oldest, most in need of rehab. It's, got tiny little rooms. We don't use most of it because of that. Not that it matters, but the type of funerals there are just direct cremations. There's no funerals that really go out of there anymore, or haven't been even since we purchased the place. It's just that's the kind of business that it is. It's a Protestant funeral home and doesn't do the kind of business that somebody like Ionati Funeral Home would do with the full funerals, wakes, etc. So again, I guess my main thing is just if we did a comparison side by side of the 2 funeral homes in Coventry, even without the other 2, would still be off by about 100,000, I'd say, give or take. That's it.
Good job. Do the other funeral homes that you referenced have crematoriums as well?
I'm not sure. I don't know. And when you refer to a crematorium, it's really just like I hate to say this, but it's just like a big pizza oven. That's really all it is. It's not like, like,
No, I understand, a really hot one.
yeah, it's a very hot pizza oven. So,
I'm gonna let the board take their questions.
mhm.
Am I correct when I was seeing on the field card that you're on almost 2 acres versus Ionati on 1/3 of an acre?
I don't know, to be honest
Yes.
with you.
Yes,
1.9.
1.9. Okay,
Mhm.
because that's a significant swing that can affect your value. I mean, you have a nice parcel over there where they're kind of like on a postage stamp compared to your property. And just so that I'm clear and I understand, your assessment was 601, 602 for the years of 2016, 17, 18, 19, the 4 years.
I have 6018.
Mhm. But it was pretty consistent, Kerry, for
6018.
17,
Yeah.
18, and 19.
Unless they appealed, it should be. Hang on.
Okay.
'17, it was at 6026. So 16, 12/31/16, and then 18, it went to 6018. So I don't know what happened there. A couple of $100.
Okay.
16. Doesn't make sense. They must have appealed. Do you know if you appealed after the 2016 revow?
I don't think so. You're saying it dropped by a few $100s?
Just a few $100, yeah.
No, because if I had appealed, that wouldn't have been, something I would have just said, oh, okay, that's
I don't know
good.
if they just corrected something simple, but
Yeah, they may have found something that they discovered at their end.
basically the same.
The additional land, if that is accurate, which I'm sorry, I don't have that info, but if the lot is slightly larger or even considerably larger, it's not of any real true value. I mean, the building itself has, old plumbing, old heating, old windows, cut up tiny rooms, very impractical. It's like as if you were to buy an old abandoned Victorian home on the street. What you'd expect, something that you'd have to, spend a lot of money to fix and everything. So it's not really comparable to any of these newer commercial buildings that were built in I think Ionati's might have been like in the 70s or something, or the 50s, but this one goes back to, like 1860 or something like that. And it looks it. So it's not very practical, and it's not very aesthetic for people. It's not really going to be a big draw, and it never has been, not for us, not for the previous owners. And it's just not a comparable building whatsoever.
I'm going to agree with you about that. I tend to hesitate when someone sticks to comparing funeral homes to other funeral homes. I think that usually discounts other possibilities for the building, and really need to look at what would somebody buy that building for. But I think you're right. I think you may be at the highest and best use as a funeral home, because as a residence, I don't think that's where someone's going to buy a mansion. If you're going to buy a mansion like that, you're going to do it on Fairview Avenue or somewhere else.
Right.
Heck, even the nice mansions up in Woonsocket, and Woonsocket isn't generally a great, the best neighborhood all the time, but boy, where those big Victorians are just beautiful. I don't see someone buying that house to live in, so I don't think the residential side works. I thought of it as apartments, but my word, the work to convert it to something would be astronomical.
Hundreds of thousands, yeah. Even as an office, yeah.
So I thought that the comparison funeral home to funeral home is fair in this case, where I tend to shy away from that. You are 40, your building is $40,000 higher than Ionati's. I was actually somewhat persuaded by your Ionati comparison. Your land value is $53,000 more than Ionati's. That would make sense given the acreage. I will say, I don't, if that lot were for sale, there's a lot of land in Coventry for sale right now, which I realize a number has to be assigned to it, but I also know that there are large parcels of land that aren't moving in this town. So, you know, I don't know.
A lot as it is though, right?
I sort of kind of lean on Karen if you have any information as to specifically, you know, what might have gone into the assessment of this, things that justify the number a little.
I actually don't have a lot of information about that. That's why I pitched this one to you. And of all the appeals that we've had so far, this is the one that I would be most happy for input from you guys with. And I am not hard and fast, no.
This is the one that of everything that was in front of us, I was very swayed by the comparison to Ionati. Because
Okay.
I established that that was the highest and best use of the property. Comparison to the funeral home made a lot of sense to me. And your comparison on a square foot basis to Ionati makes a lot of sense to me.
Let's see what I can find here.
I agree.
If that's where we're at. I got to scratch some numbers out to see what that puts me at. But
I agree with you, Chris, on taking the building adjustment down, because Ionati's building is, you know, far more appealing than the subject. However, if you take $25,000 and $30,000 and you crush the subject property, now you have a 2-acre parcel where somebody would hop on that and build cluster apartments, cluster residential that the town needs.
so I'm not necessarily looking to there's a $40,000 difference in the building values, and Ionati is bigger. So I don't know if that number even goes a little bit more, you know, to the 40,000. And I promise I'll figure this out in percentages, Carrie. I promise. I'm not saying I necessarily disagree with the land value. I don't know how fast someone would jump on that if it was a cleared lot right now. I look what they did next door to S&T Hardware, where they cleared that lot thinking clearing it was going to make it sell, and that thing is still sitting there unsold. But again, I recognize that land has value, so I'm not trying to discount that if that was a cleared lot, it wouldn't sell, it wouldn't be useful for something. It's maybe they expand the senior living that's next door. Who knows? I'm not saying there's any use for it.
They'd also have to include the cost of crushing the building, right? I mean, that's involved also.
Yeah, you know, I just want to say something about the building. I love that building. People are
I happen to too.
I love that building. Most of my family died when I was a young child. They all went through that building. I used to spend all my weekends in that building when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
I love the look
I
of it.
always loved that building, even when I was there for funerals. So anyway, I don't want to knock the building. I like the building. That being
But
said,
Thank you.
if it helps you, we have the building in average condition for having been built in 1887.
you know,
I could work with that.
I mean, if I just take the straight up number, the difference is 40,000 between Ionati's building and this building. Assuming that funeral home is the highest and best use, then that number makes sense. And then I would probably, if I forget what percentage that is, I'd probably round up because of the fact that Ionati's building is actually bigger than yours. So I mean, that's where I would come down with the information I have in front of me.
But Ionati's also has all that, the apartments and everything else that I don't have. You know, I have like attic space. I don't think, right? He's got a rental apartment. He's got a finished attic. We don't. He's got bedrooms. We don't. So their finished living area is, you're right, it's 6972. Ours is 6168. But it still puts the, theirs is at, you know, theirs would, if ours was assessed at the exact same, even though ours is nowhere near as nice or as finished, it would still put us into the 587 range based on that square footage. And even at that, our square foot price shouldn't be anywhere near what their square foot price is. They would get, top dollar for their building per square foot, where we wouldn't. We definitely wouldn't. Ours needs tons of improvements, which are never going to happen, just not being used. The second floor is an office, and the third floor is just an attic. And all we use is half of the first floor, if that, mostly just for arrangements. And then we, like I said, usually just do cremations.
Well, I think as a practical matter, it'd be difficult to use the second or third floor as a funeral home anyway. You're not going to shuffle guests up and downstairs. So the second floor is going to be office space no matter what, whether it's an attic or space. I'm agreeing that funeral home is the highest and best use of that property. How you choose to use it, that's up to you. And I get there are issues with it, but.
Right.
Is the property sewered?
I'm sorry, go
Is
ahead.
the property sewered?
Yes, we got charged $80,000 to do that a few years back when we first bought it. And the town actually closed off the whole road for a good part of the year and told people not to go there. So we lost almost a year's worth of business while that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
They had cops directing people away, and I was trying to get into the office, and the cops said, avoid that building like the plague. So I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're telling people that, because I'm just struggling. I'm just buying this place. I get hit with that sewer thing for 80, and then the police are telling everybody not to go over there. So that was like the worst year of my life. I mean, I had to borrow money from everybody to survive. It was very awful.
That expense somewhere down the road, it has increased the value of that particular parcel. But I agree with Chris that we have to scale down from the building value aspect of it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hang on, I'm going to throw something out there.
Does it make sense to keep her where she was at the 602? Based on this discussion?
I could live with that.
Okay, let's see. I agree that it should be if there's adjustment to be made, it should be made on the building. So.
Because a lot of these parcels that are still available, these big parcels, number one, it's size, and number two, it's drainage, and you have sewers, and you have 2 acres on a main road. That comes with its value. But so now we have to go and attack the beast, and that being the building.
Okay, so building 2. Building 2 was built in 2010. It's probably not a whole lot I can do.
I mean, one thought, if the building was dropped by 15%, that put the building at 389,640.
Excuse me.
You're talking about the first building, building 1?
See, unfortunately, I'm looking at the Northeast valuation. I'm looking
At the total, building total, both buildings total?
It might be, because I was looking at a single building number of 458.4. Yeah, so that's the building and outbuilding. Never mind.
Okay, so We have, okay. So the outbuilding, are all commercial aspects. So it's paving, lights, signs, and a gazebo. All from 2010. Paving prices out, comes out 40,000 square feet of paving.
So I have a suggestion. If you dropped the building, the 373.7 number by 15%, that would be a $56,000 reduction, which to me is pretty, that brings you down a little under the value of Ionati's building. Which makes
Okay.
it for the condition and size. I don't know, that's
What's Ionati's building alone valued at?
458.4.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, hold on, let me make sure I'm right on that.
Let's-
Ionati's building is 498.1.
Building alone?
Oh shoot, I forgot. No, sorry, it's 475.8. I'm looking at the total building value, not the outbuildings.
Well, for a start, let's bring the building back down to the 341, because nothing wonderful happened from 2019 to where we are today.
Okay, I'm seeing what's happening here when I change depreciation. Can start there because I think that would be logical.
Yeah, I mean, right there, we're finding $32,000.
Why is this not recalcing? Okay. So if I bring us to fair condition
Mm-hmm.
on the building one,
Mm-hmm.
the funeral home, it brings the overall value to 653.6. And
653.6. Okay, and we back out the
I can't change that.
32.3, which was the jump, which brings it to 621.3. Yeah, so if you bring it to fair carry and we get rid of that jump from 19 to 20, since nothing wonderful happened to the building.
When you say get rid of the jump, what do you mean by that? The
Well, it
increase
increased.
for the revo?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there's one thing. This is we're gonna fix your bathroom that whatever happens, okay?
Yeah,
So no full bathrooms,
right.
3 half bathrooms.
3 half baths, yes.
Do you have a kitchen?
No, no kitchen. And the third floor is barely, it's unfinished attic space. I don't know if they have it as that.
Yes, it is. It
Okay.
is as that.
Okay.
I don't know what's happening, why this is being so slow. I'm gonna have to go back and figure out what I did.
So fair reduces it to 653.6, correct, Carrie?
Yes,
Okay.
and I don't know what's happening with this, why it is so it's never this slow.
And then we
Get out of that.
32.3, that it jumped from 19 to 20.
All right, I corrected the other detail. So we have three.
Yeah, if you do those two things, you're right back what I was suggesting,
Mm-hmm,
number-wise.
mm-hmm.
Those things have to happen in any case. Okay, so I'm down to 645.8. What was she previous? I can't go back to previous years when I'm in session edit. So
Well, 2019,
602?
value was 6018.
606. Okay. So
They improved her
You're saying
land
that-
value, which I agree. I agree with the land value,
okay,
but it's the building that that increase in the building should be taken out.
right, but okay, I'm gonna
Because
try.
you're gonna drop it from average to fair.
I did drop it from average to fair.
Okay, and then if we can reduce it by that $32,300 jump from 19 to 20, 2019 to 2020, that will get her to 621.3. And then if you want to, I mean, there's not a lot of value between the full baths and half bathrooms, but if you want to give some consideration to like bring it to like 615, I mean.
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do it in a logical way where it should be done.
Yeah, and it gives it some validity. I get you.
This is not going to do much, but it's going to be more right. So I'm just changing the. Do you have some other fixture in there?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
What
Some other extraneous fixture.
fixture? What do you?
Yeah, plumbing fixture.
No.
Is there any plumbing in any outbuildings?
In the crematory, there's plumbing.
That's on building 2.
Building two.
That's on its own thing.
Okay, no, there's nothing. There's 3 half baths in the main building. That's it.
Okay, get rid of that. Not that that does much, but let's see what this happens. So we'll do that. Yes, just do it. And my apologies why this is just lagging. It's making me crazy. Unbelievable. All right. Oh, let's see here. We're gonna go in here. So right now we have it in average quality construction, and I don't think that's where I should change anything. God, it's tough. It's really tough. Okay, so our other option is to adjust using a functional adjustment or an economic adjustment, an external economic adjustment.
I don't know if this might count for something, but all of Capwell Ave is like full of drugs. I don't know if that's changing, and people are not really fond of that area because there's always problems. There's police there, there's arrests there. Those people actually hang out in my parking lot. We're constantly calling the police on them. The seniors are calling the police on them. Is that an economic factor?
Well, that would be taken into account in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So because it's a commercial property that doesn't have generally people there a whole lot after dark, maybe we could adjust the land a little bit. Lisa, I know that you feel like the land value is good. I kind of do too. I'd rather do it on the building. I'm just trying to,
Why, are we dropping it to fair or we're not dropping it to
I
fair?
already dropped it to fair. I
Okay,
already dropped it to fair, changed the bathroom count, got rid of the extra fixture, which that's all small stuff.
so where are you at right now?
We're at 644.4,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that we could maybe use a functional adjustment because, like Ms. Musto said, it's for a business, it's a very choppy building. So maybe we can give it a layout adjustment.
Well, yeah, because you don't have a kitchen in it.
No.
Right. But it's not residential, it's commercial.
Right.
So let me try that. If we are at, it's just the building value. Oh my gosh. Thank you for your patience. I'm so sorry. This isn't, it seems maybe it's,
I appreciate what you're doing.
Carrie, last time the land jumped,
I
from 16 to 17, it jumped in an increment of $25,000. And then it stayed there for 17, 18, 19. And then when it jumped, and then it jumped, but it jumped more than 25,000.
Right.
So if you can mirror that 25,000 and with the element that of the type of people that are around that building, then at least it gives some fairness to the land and value to, you know, the argument of us getting her to where she needs to be.
No, I feel like if that happens for one property,
It's going to Pandora's box, yeah.
and it wouldn't be fair. Okay, so if I put a 10% functional adjustment on the building one and apply it, the value goes to 616.4. And I think that for me, and it at fair condition, that might work for me, but it's not up to me, it's up to you.
And
And
the
if you
number,
want me to try more, I can.
the number is 616.
Overall, the whole number is 616.4.
I'm fine with that number.
That's consistent with what I was saying.
Okay, I can live with that. I'm happy. I appreciate that.
Well, like I say, of all of the hearings that have come before you so far, this was the one I was most uptight about, actually. Okay, so. If we're done, I believe that that's probably, so you went from 601.8 to 616.4 from 2019 value to 2020 value. 2019 tax year value to 2020. Okay.
Okay.
We're just waiting on your board here, my board.
So Carrie, do you want a motion for that number?
I would like, yes, please.
All right, so I make a motion based upon the discussion we've had regarding the value of the building and property, that we set the new value of this property at $616,400.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
That's moved by Chris Anderson, seconded by Adhesion. I think that's fair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wisdo. Okay.
Announcements on the agenda. Karen, what's our announcements?
The
Okay,
next
so
meeting will be
I'm
held
done.
on February 16th, 2021, if we can work that out. I already have it reserved. We have to reserve for Zoom. We can only have one Zoom meeting at a time. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say thank you to everyone and good night. I'm going to sign out.
Good
Okay,
night.
good night. Thank you very much.
Okay. But thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. So announcements are next meeting will be held on February 16th, 2021, if we can achieve a quorum.
That's fine.
Mr. Spada, you were so quiet.
You can't improve upon the silence.
I didn't even hear what you said.
Said you can't improve upon the silence.
Oh, something to be said for that, isn't there? Okay, so we ready to adjourn? Any of you want to add anything?
No, I think that was a good effort. Nice group effort to, help her out. And
Well,
also
I think it's fair.
I
think
agree.
it's fair. Ready to adjourn?
Ready to adjourn.
Mr. Anderson?
Motion to adjourn.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you
night.
very much. Be well, stay safe out there.